James Carter stepped into one of his company's flagship stores in downtown Los Angeles on a bustling Saturday afternoon. Customers were browsing through shelves, checking out the latest sneaker releases, while upbeat hip-hop played softly in the background. Wearing a simple black t-shirt, a pair of blue jeans, and well-worn sneakers, James looked like an average customer. But in reality, he was the CEO and founder of Carter Kicks, one of the fastest-growing sneaker brands in the United States. He often liked to visit his stores unannounced, without security or assistance, to see firsthand how customers were treated, when they weren't aware the boss was watching. As he walked through the aisles, he carefully observed how employees interacted with customers. Some were enthusiastic and helpful, eagerly assisting shoppers in finding the right fit. Others, however, seemed disengaged, barely acknowledging customers as they walked past. James stopped when he spotted a pair of the brand-new Carter Elites X, a premium sneaker retailing for $250. It was one of the company's latest designs, featuring high-quality leather, cutting-edge cushioning technology, and a sleek, modern silhouette. He bent down, picked one up, and ran his fingers over the soft leather, testing the flexibility of the sole. He liked what he saw. It was time to try them on. "Hey, can someone help me get these in a size 11?" he asked, looking toward a sales associate nearby. The young employee, a tall, blonde-haired man named Brad, glanced at James from head to toe. His eyes flickered, over James's casual outfit and slightly worn sneakers. Brad smirked. "You sure? These are kinda pricey." James blinked, taken aback by the comment. "Yeah, I'm sure. Do you have them in size 11? Brad shrugged. "You might want to check out the clearance section in the back. There are some sneakers there for, like, $50, probably more in your range." A cold silence settled in the air. James could feel his patience thinning, but he kept his voice calm. "Are you saying I can't afford these?" Brad raised an eyebrow. "I'm just being real with you. These high-end sneakers are usually for sneakerheads or people who can actually drop that kind of cash." James exhaled slowly, gripping the shoe a little tighter. This store belonged to him. This company was his creation, and yet one of his own employees had just judged him based on his appearance. "So, can you get me a size 11? James repeated, his voice slightly firmer. Brad sighed, crossing his arms. "Look, man, to be honest, I need to see a credit card first. Store policy." James narrowed his eyes. "Store policy requires customers to show a credit card before trying on shoes?" Brad shrugged again. "Not exactly, but I'm just trying to save you some time." James let out a small, humorless chuckle. "So, does this store have a policy against serving the CEO?" Brad laughed, shaking his head. "The CEO? Man, you're funny. The CEO of this company is a serious businessman. I've seen pictures of him in company emails. Trust me, you don't look like him." At that moment, a new voice cut through the conversation. "Mr. Carter, it's such an honor to have you here." Brad turned sharply, his smirk vanishing. A woman in her early 30s, with neatly tied brown hair and a manager's badge reading. Sarah was rushing over, looking both excited and terrified. James gave her a half smile. "Hi, Sarah. Seems like your employee here is quite skilled at sizing up customers." Sarah paled as she glanced at Brad, then back at James. "Brad, do you have any idea who this is?" Brad shook his head, now looking uneasy. "No?" Sarah took a deep breath. "This is James Carter, the CEO of Carter Kicks. He owns this company." The air in the store seemed to freeze. Brad's face went ghost white. Oh my God, I didn't know, I didn't mean." James still had that faint, unreadable smile on his face. "But you did mean it, didn't you?" Brad stammered. I'm really sorry, I didn't realize." James crossed his arms, looking him dead in the eye. "And that's the problem. If I weren't the CEO, would you have treated me any differently?" Brad had no answer. His gaze dropped to the floor. James turned to Sarah. We need to have a serious talk about how employees are trained. I won't have customers being treated like this. Sarah nodded quickly. Yes, sir. Absolutely. I'll handle it right away. Without another word, James turned and walked toward the exit, leaving Brad standing there, looking as if he wished the ground would swallow him whole. As James stepped out onto the busy street, he couldn't help but think about the countless other customers who might have faced the same treatment. People who weren't CEOs. People who didn't have the power to speak up for themselves. Pulling out his phone, he sent a message to his head of HR. Effective immediately. Launch a new customer service training program. I want every employee to understand that every customer matters. No exceptions. He slipped his phone back into his pocket, a determined smile forming on his lips. It was time for change. James Carter had built Carter Kicks on the principles of inclusivity, respect, and top-tier customer service. Brad's behavior wasn't just a personal insult. It was a failure of company culture. However, instead of reacting emotionally or firing Brad on the spot, James chose to handle the situation strategically and professionally. Leading by example, James didn't immediately call out Brad's behavior in an aggressive way. Instead, he remained calm and gave Brad multiple chances to correct his mistake. He asked direct questions. Are you saying I can't afford these? Store policy requires customers to show a credit card before trying on shoes? Does this store have a policy against serving the CEO? By doing this, James let Brad expose his own bias without needing to be confrontational. This approach made it impossible for Brad to justify his actions later. Addressing the bigger issue, rather than making the situation just about himself, James immediately thought about other customers. He knew that if Brad treated him this way, he had probably treated other customers unfairly too, especially those who didn't fit his idea of a wealthy shopper. That's why, instead of focusing only on punishing Brad, James decided to implement systemic changes, mandatory customer service and bias training for all employees, a stricter evaluation process for hiring and promoting sales associates, a review of in-store policies to ensure fair treatment for every customer. 3. Fair but firm consequences for Brad. James did not fire Brad immediately, even though he had every right to. Instead, he had a conversation with the HR department and store leadership to ensure a fair and corrective course of action. Brad was suspended without pay for 2 weeks. He was required to complete intensive customer service and implicit bias training before returning. If there was one more complaint against him, he would be terminated immediately. This response sent a clear message to the entire company. Discrimination and bad customer service would not be tolerated, but mistakes could be corrected through education and accountability. Turning the EI experience into a company-wide lesson, James didn't just see this as a personal incident. He used it as an opportunity to reinforce company values. He personally sent out a message to all managers and employees, emphasizing that every customer deserves respect, regardless of appearance. Sales associates should never assume a customer's financial status. Great service is the foundation of Carter Kicks' success. By handling the situation strategically rather than emotionally, James not only corrected a problem at one store, but also made lasting changes across the entire company. This was true leadership, firm, fair, and focused. On long-term improvement over short-term punishment,